gathered tonight to honor one of Keystone's founders and first president, a very special man. I gotta make sure he's here. Where is he? Joe? Joe's right there, okay. Joe's right there. He's the first president, Joe Brown, Esquire, and we are proud to present these testimonials, which will be in your honor, Joe, and you're receiving the Monte Miller Economic Freedom Award recipient. But before I introduce the speaker that's going to introduce you, I need to give a little color about my friend Joe Brown. So I've known Joe Brown for nearly 3 decades. I knew him by reputation, and then I got to know him personally. We sat together on the Athletic Commission for many years, and we sat together on the Gaming Commission after that for many years. Now, let me tell you, when you sit on, for example, the Gaming Commission, and you have licensees before you, they give you a dossier, an investigatory report that's not measured in pages, it's measured in inches. Ooh, this guy's got 4 inches of stuff. This lady's got 2 inches of stuff, right? So you know everything about that person. So in these meetings, we've reviewed everything, we're doing the hearings, and Joe, in every hearing, would stop when the question answer period, when you're grilling those licensees, Joe would always say, I got a question for you. So of course, the 4 of us kind of look, have no idea what Joe's gonna say. And Joe says, did you have a great-grandfather who lived on the corner of Main and First Street in Winnemucca? So the other 4 commissioners are doing this. Where's he going with this, right? Is there something going on here? Is this person connected to the Cosa Nostra or what, right? And they would pause and they'd go, why, yes. Why do you ask? And Joe Brown would say, oh, I have a friend that was his neighbor. That's a true story. That happened almost every meeting. Second Joe Brown story, we coined a phrase to describe Joe Brown. We called him America's guest. I'll tell you why. 15 years ago, I'm in Miami, family vacation, and I'm sitting at a little Cuban cafe having my Cuban coffee. And next to me, Cubans are very talkative. They'll strike a conversation with anybody. And this gentleman to my right strikes a conversation with me, thick Cuban accent. Where are you from? I'm from Las Vegas. That guy, without missing a beat, goes, do you know Joe Brown? True story. It gets better. I'm telling that story after one of our meetings, and a friend of ours, who at that time was the COO of Ultimate Fighting Championship, his name's Kirk Hendrick. He's actually now the chair of the gaming board. Anyway, he walks in the middle of a story of Joe Brown. I think I was probably telling the Miami story. He didn't hear that part of the story. He just knew it was about Joe Brown. So he sits down and he says, oh, I got a story about Joe Brown. I go, Kirk, what is it? He goes, I'm in Hawaii, and I'm sitting here having lunch, and this couple strikes a conversation with us, and we told them we're from Vegas. And they said, do you know Joe Brown? America's guest, Hawaii to Florida. You know I'm not exaggerating. Without further ado, to present the Monte Miller Economic Freedom Award, please welcome his good friend, our good friend, my good friend, Governor Bob List to the stage. Where is he? Here he comes.
My first job is to say to someone out there in that darkness, please cue the video.
I've known Joe Brown for just short of 50 years. I was a young officer at Valley Bank of Nevada, and Joe was on the board of directors at Valley Bank of Nevada, and that's where I began to see him and listen to him as a lawyer, political leader, and a community service advocate. So as the time developed, I got a chance to be invited to observe this founders board, which Joe is a member of, And after a few months of observing, they asked me to join the board. And this board built Keystone into the strongest business advocate, real advocate for a business environment like no other organization in the state of Nevada.
Well, I first met Joe some 50 years ago, and at that time I was in public office, and I came up in Carson City. I think I was AG. I came down to some political event, and there's this young fellow there, and they said, "You need to know this guy. He's going a long way. He's a young lawyer. He just moved here. He's a law clerk over in the courthouse." And they said, he's eager to be active in the Republican Party. And everybody was embracing him and getting to know him. And from that point forward, he went on a huge trajectory that has brought him to this day for a well-deserved honor. Joe not only made his mark in politics, always as a volunteer, and always willing to help whoever it was, keeping his commitments. He went on beyond that, of course, in the business community as a very respected lawyer. He knew how to handle it, and people trusted him because he was honest, and he was a man of tremendous character. And humor, great sense of humor always. And so it came to be that everybody in town loved Joe.
A group of us went up to Carson City, and we decided to change the workers' compensation laws, which really needed to be changed. And I'll say that I may have sponsored the bill, but Joe Brown was the point guy behind writing that piece of legislation, and maybe more importantly, making sure that it got passed. He went to legislators to say what workers' compensation was, because some of them didn't even know what it was. And somehow, miraculously, we changed workers' compensation here in Nevada. We took a bankrupt, state-run, broken system and privatized it. And that's what we have today. So if you're a business owner, you can thank Joe Brown for that.
I consider myself a lifelong friend of Joe Brown. I've known him practically since I moved here 50 years ago. He loves people, he loves everybody, and we all love Joe. In fact, we love Joe so much that we all think we're actually his best friend. At a party one time, I think I actually asked the question, how many people here think they're Joe Brown's best friend? And I think 95% of the people raised their hand.
Over the years, he held the top 3 biggies as far as the governor's appointees. He was, I got the opportunity to appoint him first to the Fish and Wildlife position, which regulates all of the hunting and fishing in the state of Nevada. He's a great outdoorsman, by the way, and he's made a million friends in that world also. But he later served as the head of or as a member, I guess it was, of the Athletic Commission, regulates boxing. Of course, Nevada is the capital of the universe in terms of major boxing and sports that way, and he's highly regarded there, did a fabulous job. And then later he hit the trifecta. He was appointed to the Nevada Gaming Commission. That's such an important job that regulates who gets to have a license and who doesn't.
He knew everybody, everywhere. If you had anything going on, any place, he had a phone number, he called, he went to school with the guy. We're not really sure Joe went to school, but he said he went to school with the guy, or he went hunting with the guy, he went fishing with the guy. His Rolodex, and Rolodex isn't the term we use anymore, but his Rolodex is beyond belief. And there's nobody that if you have a problem that Joe Brown doesn't have a number of someone that he can call. You can name any city in the country and he'll rattle off 4 guys that he went to college with, he was in the Marines with, he was a Marine too, I didn't know if that came up. But that speaks a lot. But the question is, did Joe Brown really ever graduate school? I mean,
Joe was the longtime Nevada committee man. And I show up to my first meeting and he tells me that I have to make a speech, that we're on the agenda to becoming an early state, like Iowa, like New Hampshire. And frankly, I couldn't fathom that would happen here in Nevada. But I did what he said. I went up and I made my speech. He had worked the room for 2 years and knew all those delegates. And sure enough, we won the vote. And we have been the first in the West since 2010. And we can thank Joe for that.
I mean, a man like that goes to every 2 years to Carson City and helps build this business environment and helps keep it one of the best business environments in the United States.
Joe is a perfect choice to get the Economic Freedom Award because he stands for the best in the world of business. He's such a believer, such a patriot, such a believer in democracy, giving everybody a chance. And his integrity and his directness, his honesty, is never compromised. And those are the kind of people we need in business. You know, a handshake is good. That's his word. You don't need to see it in writing. If Joe gives you his word, that's it. And he represents the very best in the business community.
I am proud that he's being honored and getting this award. Joe is a guy who's put a lot of time in, and he puts 100% into whatever he gets involved in. And I know he's been involved with this organization from the very beginning. You made a contribution. You're an unsung hero. I'm not sure people really understand the amount of contribution you made. And for that, on behalf of all of Las Vegas, I want to thank you for what you've done for this community.
So congratulations, Joe, on this great award. You so deserve it, and I love you from the bottom of my heart.
So congratulations, Joe. It's a great honor, and I'm so proud of you as a friend, a dear friend, for all these years, and for all you've done for the state of Nevada.
Well, each year, as you all are well aware at this point, Keystone honors someone who has done something above and beyond the ordinary course of their professional lives. And they're awarded what is called the Monte Miller Economic Freedom Award. And it goes to someone who has a level of success, not only in their own business, but doing something much greater to preserve the free market principles and economic prosperity of our state. Past recipients include people like Sheldon and Miriam Adelson, former Lieutenant Governor Lorraine Hunt. Lorraine, congratulations again to you. And our chairman, John Gibson, who's a retired chairman of the renowned American Pacific Corporation. The award celebrates Nevadans who have not only excelled in their own industries, but have distinguished themselves in having served in a much larger community and statewide role, shaping the economic trajectory of the state of Nevada and beyond. None have been more deserving than our honoree tonight. Joe Brown was raised and educated on the East Coast, but he heeded the call of author Horace Greeley, "Go West, young man." And it's good for this country, it's good for Nevada, and it's been certainly good for Las Vegas and Keystone that he did so. He finished law school, and he also served a hitch in the Marine Corps. Thank you for that, Joe. And he and his wonderful wife, Pam, headed to Las Vegas, which was then a relatively dusty small town of fewer than 200,000 people in 1998. He took a gamble, went into a job as a law clerk for a district court judge here named Al Wortman that many of us remember. And Joe and Pam's first home was in the garage of the Wortmans out in Boulder City. He's since moved up from the garage in Boulder City. It was a bet that paid off for them and for Nevada and for us. In the years that followed, Joe rose to the top ranks of the practicing lawyers and distinguished litigators in this town. He was an expert in government affairs, administrative and corporate law, representing the likes of such clients as Howard Hughes, and serving as a respected lobbyist in Carson City for the same kind of principles that we stand for today. He's an AV-rated attorney, listed in the best lawyers in America. He was sought out also for his business expertise and knowledge to serve in other capacities, such as members of various banks. He served on the Valley Bank Board, the Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. And we're especially indebted to Joe for being the founding president of Keystone when it was first established. Thank you for that, Joe. Over the years, the elected leaders of this state have called on him to serve the public as well. He's the only Nevadan to have served all three of what I consider to be the most sought-after gubernatorial appointments to boards and commissions. And two of those have been mentioned. I guess all three have been mentioned. The Wildlife Commission, you'd be surprised how many people want to serve on that. It regulates all the hunting and fishing in Nevada. And Joe, of course, is an outdoorsman par excellence, a great shot, a great fly fisherman. We've had a lot of good trips together. And then he served on the Athletic Commission, as Tony mentioned, and of course on the Gaming Commission. He's active in the Republican Party during all those years, served in all kinds of campaigns. We won't talk about his one campaign. He tries to say that although he didn't succeed in that campaign, it's best because he'd have been kept busy the rest of his life serving for higher offices. Joe holds an honorary doctorate degree from the UNLV. He was appointed by President Ronald Reagan to two trusted federal positions, the Foreign Claims Settlement Commission and the State Judicial Institute. And his nonprofit charitable service includes chairman of the Catholic Community Services, the Boys and Girls Club, and my favorite, the Western Folklife Center that produces the internationally recognized cowboy poetry gathering every year and works to maintain the traditions of the West, the Old West. In his free time, Joe is an outdoorsman, as I mentioned. He's active in the Nature Conservancy. And finally, to top it all off, he and Pam have been married for 57 years and are the proud parents of 4 wonderful sons, one of whom, Hunter, is here tonight, and they have 7 grandchildren. What is it about Joe that enabled him to be selected to all of those positions in business and in our society and in our culture? I think it's more than just a hearty personality and a guy that's a lot of fun to sit with and visit with and listen to his stories. It's Joe's integrity, his character, his good judgment, his wisdom, and his honesty, and his ability to size up a situation and come up with a good, honest, logical solution that solves the problems among people. He's so respected for that. And most of all, I guess, that all ties in with a great sense of humor and being kind and having a great heart. And Joe, please step forward to accept your award.
I appreciate you giving me this statue of Bobby Fexer. Looks just like him. There's a lot of great friends of mine here that really went out of their way to come, and I'm so grateful to all of you that did. I'm overwhelmed, actually. And among those that I want to recognize are my dear friend, even though he's been wrong politically all of his life, Dick Bryan is here. It's wonderful of you to come, Dick. And I also want to recognize several dear friends who were actually sons of some of my original friends who were a little bit older than me that took me under their wings. And I'm talking about like the Corrigans and the Joneses, whose dad, Stephen and Randall, their dad, Herb, I loved like my own father, and Gary Moffett, Stephen Randall, Adam and Mike Corrigan, brought here by Bobby, and I appreciate you being here. Lastly, Tony Alamo. I loved serving with Tony. He was always fun to be with, fun to go to meetings with. I thought surely he was going to tell the story about me going 10 rounds with Don King. But one last thing, Bob recognized my son Hunter, but if you don't mind, I'd like everybody at the table, including my grandson Tyree and my three granddaughters, Clara, Maddie, and Lauren, and my son Jeff. Please stand, see how beautiful they are. And now I want to tell you a story. It's a true story. Although I know sometimes a good story gets ruined by the fact that there's an eyewitness in the presence of the teller. And there is an eyewitness here tonight. About 40 years ago, there was a bank in Las Vegas, which Bob mentioned, called Valley Bank of Nevada. It was run by a legend by the name of Perry Thomas. And I thought I'd died and gone to heaven when Perry Thomas called me in 1985 and asked me if I would serve on their board of directors. And while I was on the board, there was a very bright, energetic young man by the name of Monte Miller, who worked in their trust department. And I got to know Monte Miller. One day I got a call from a dear friend of mine in Birmingham, Alabama, who I'd gone to University of Virginia with. And he called to say, I'm counsel for a savings and loan that because Alabama has recently raised its taxes, they are considering reincorporating and moving to Delaware. But I remember you told me that Nevada has every advantage that Delaware has, so we want to check it out. Well, long story short, they ended up coming to Las Vegas. I did the legal work in setting up the entity. Valley Bank held the custody of the assets, and Deloitte & Touche did the accounting for it. Then my friend Tom Krebs met another lawyer from Ohio, and he brought a savings and loan from Ohio. Then, next thing we know, the floodgates opened up, and dozens of banks from the Midwest, particularly Wisconsin, came to Nevada. They all used our firm to get set up. They used Valley Bank to keep their assets, and Deloitte & Touche. And it was a huge, profitable deal for Valley Bank. Well, in 1991, Bank of America wanted to buy us, Valley Bank. And to everyone's utter amazement, they didn't want that business. They didn't want the custodial business. So this bright, energetic young guy named Monte Miller said, I'll step forward, I'll handle all that business. And boy, he's made a hell of a deal out of it. And congratulations to you, Monte, for what you've done. But the night that we had our closing dinner of Valley Bank, of closing the deal, Perry Thomas gave me this IOU. And he said, for you bringing all that business to Nevada and to our bank, we're going to give you an IOU that if we ever got back into business, we will pay you a finder's fee. So here it is, Valley Capital Corporation, and it's in the amount of $110 million. So, Monte, I will trade you this cowboy statue for the $110 million. Is that a deal? So another history lesson. As was said, it's been 25 years ago now that we had a Western Leadership Conference in Las Vegas, and it was a big success. And my old pal, Tom Wiesner, was the national committee man. And we were having a post-mortem afterwards to talk about our success. And Tito was there, and Barry Becker, and Bob Maxey, and Jerry Dondero. A lot of people in town were there. And Jerry Dondero came up with the idea we should have a group, a permanent group. Let's start a club, and where we can raise money and give it to conservative candidates. So Jerry even came up with the name, the Keystone. And then Wiesner points at me and he says, "All right, you're the first president." You know, and I didn't argue with Wiesner. If you ever saw Wiesner, you didn't argue with him. So that Bob Maxey was the chairman. I was the president, and it was tough sledding at first, but this board that serves now, and Monte, and John Gibson, Ted Gibson was one of that original board with us, and was a dear friend. He was a Democrat, but he convinced us, don't call it a Republican organization, call it a conservative organization, because good old Ted, he was a conservative, pro-business guy. So I wanted to tell you those two stories, and I think they're mostly true, almost all true, but I want to tell Sweet Sue Loudon, who I don't think is here tonight, but you saw her on the screen, and not so sweet Mark Fine, and my dear partner, Governor Bob List, that I treasure your friendship. I certainly appreciate the kind words that you said tonight, and I love you all. To those of you who wrote the checks to be here tonight and to support the election of conservative candidates, to keep this country conservative, certainly keep Nevada conservative, God bless you all. Thank you again.